Hello, and welcome to Andrew Broussard Watercolors. Today, I am filming my first full length in about a month, so it might be a little choppy. As you probably saw, we bought a house and moved, so doing all that stuff. I just filmed some short time lapses between moving and unpacking. And today, I finally get a chance to film a full length, and I'm also feeling at the point where I can do one, where I have the energy and all that. So, that being said, you're always welcome to follow along. You're always welcome to sign your own name with anything that you follow along with, and you have my express permission to sell anything that you do whenever you follow along with any of these videos. This one's going to be quite experimental, but please like, subscribe, follow, and I have the Patreon if you'd like to donate down below. And thank you to everybody that donates and supports. I appreciate it. So that being said, this is going to be experimental. I've been playing with a mixture of watercolor and gouache. In front of me, it's about an 8x10 sheet of Stonehenge Legion 90-pound craft. The craft looks nice with the white gouache, so we'll see how that looks. But a lot of these things, there's nothing set in stone that I'm really following. I'm literally just exploring and coming up with different ideas. And yeah, let's kind of go into it. Now, the palette that I've been using of colors has been a pretty basic one. It's the Ron Ranson palette, which, if you don't know, that we have a Facebook page dedicated to Ron Ranson and his approach to painting. It's Ron Ranson Disciples, so check that out. And it consists of about 7 colors. Right here is Payne's Gray mixed with a little bit of alizarin. And I've added some other colors to the palette. Yellow ochre, the sap green as a convenience, straight black, and raw umber. Those are kind of the add-ons. That and Prussian or Phthalo Blue. Kind of been playing back and forth between the Prussian and Phthalo. I use those to mix greens or brown greens or gray greens with the earth colors. And that's something that I picked up from James Fletcher Watson, another painter who's unfortunately deceased, but has a lot of great books and material out there. Okay, just kind of getting an idea for the sky. Now, the skies have been kind of back and forth experimenting. Gouache wise, I introduced a little spot onto my palette for that. I used to never keep any gouache on my palette, but since I'm experimenting with it so much, it's been okay. Mainly because the other paints wind up getting that chalkiness connected to them, but it's fine. The white gouache itself will get kind of a chalky feel over the craft paper, but it's kind of an interesting effect. And part of it is just trying to get textures that feel good. Like you see a little bit of blue from the Payne's Gray being a mixture of black and blue. Oh, some other things. Let me know what you think of the lighting. Being in the new house, I've been having to experiment with that. And I have big windows on either side that almost seem to overpower the light with glares and things. And being in the new house as well, the humidity and temperature, kind of just the atmosphere in the house, is going to be a little different than the old house. And I have been running the ceiling fan in here, so that's going to affect kind of the drying times. So it's just kind of getting used to the environment. Kind of like plein air painting outside, you want to get used to just how things are going to dry and change in that environment. Okay. Let's see. So I'm just almost kind of scrubbing in, moving things around. Let's leave some heavier applications of the whitewash just so you can kind of get an idea of what that might look like. And this is a cheap little squirrel mop. The name is starting to rub off. Where did I get this from? Silver Atelier Squirrel. So I probably got that one from Blick or Jerry's Artorama. Now I have put tables on either side so the cats are able to come over and say hi. Percy, say hi to everybody in your new house. All right, Percy says hi. But I don't have to deal with them putting their claw in my ankle, my thigh, while I'm talking and painting. I can't tell you how many of the past videos had that happen, and I just talked right through it, and you guys didn't know it. All right, let's get some lemon yellow, yellow ochre, and a little bit of ultramarine. Just kind of plan out this foreground. Now, this is a photo from a little longboard ride that I had taken before the move, and I'll try to post it up onto the Patreon, so if you want to follow along you can. The yellow ochre has a more opaque feel to it. There's a road right here in the picture, but I don't think I want the road. I just don't particularly like that. I might maybe convert it into kind of a dirt road. Let me see if I can grab some. Ooh, this is burnt sienna. Let's go in. There we go. So with this, there's been a lot of wet and wet. I haven't been really using too much of the paper towel with this approach. I do build up quite a bit, like the previous painting styles for this. Let's do that now. So I'm going to pull a little moisture out of the Hake brush. When I pull moisture out, I mainly pull from the base where it connects. And I'll introduce the Prussian Blue into the mix. I might actually have pulled out too much water. Mixing some raw sienna in there, and you'll see how the blue and the earth palette will give greens. As you kind of go through the gambit of the earth colors, you'll get progressively darker. Prussian Blue itself is, I think, one of the historical blues. And from what I understand, it's color changing in the sense where if it's exposed to light for quite a while, it lightens up. And if it's put into a dark place like a closet for a few days, apparently it reverts and it darkens back up. I'm not sure chemically what's causing that. I'm pretty sure there's no light fast issues with it. It's just literally that phenomena happening. And that being said, I think phthalo blue, which I would see referred to as Windsor blue in some older art books, especially art books from England, like James Fletcher Watson. And I believe it was just named that because it was brought about by the Winsor Newton Company. I could be mistaken on that originality of the name. But they're also the ones who introduced Chinese white in the early 1800s. So I know that they were obviously a big player. All right. So with these kind of simple scenes, I try to have a simple S shape or layering take place in them. They're very basic compositions, but I feel that they either give, like a little bit of a feel to them, maybe more whimsical or more just a little bit relaxed, serene. And you'll see right here, you can come up right through there. And all that is just setting one of the objects a little bit higher in the picture plane and a little bit lower right behind it on top vertically. So it's just smaller vertically and it just sets back a little bit. And then we can use some tonal values or use to change how it's popping towards us. We'll kind of put a little grass line like there is in the picture. What we want to watch out for is that it's just not a perfect straight line. We just want some variety in it so the eye doesn't just shoot through, it kind of goes up and down. And we'll build that as we go. Some light red oxide, a little bit of ultramarine, kind of just getting a little bit of a mud. Getting the idea of how the road's going to come up and over and cut back. And the squirrel mop has been pretty helpful. So I'll grab that and I'll mix a dark. This is just raw umber and ultramarine coming together. I'm just tossing that in there. And there is a shadow in the picture, and I think I'll have that shadow come out too. I like those little basic shadows. I'm just grabbing some lamp black. There might be a little bit of black wash in there because when I was loading my palette up before starting to film, I accidentally put some on top. It's like, why does this say just black and not lamp black? And it was black wash. So you see I'm just trying to vary the vertical distance. And if we wanted to, we can put some pretty strong strokes of yellow ochre in here and play around with some raw sienna. You can even grab a little bit of lemon yellow. Yeah, Ham. Okay, so I still have some of that brown on there. It shows you how I just don't wash the Hake brush. All right. Now, I'm gonna darken up my green mix by doing the phthalo blue, and this is hey Ham, phthalo and burnt sienna. And you'll see in a moment how it's on the darker side of things. And with these experiments, I've been kind of referring to them as Victorian, mainly because that era was when I think watercolors had more of this solid feel to them. He's one in my lap. I'm leaning back now, painting one-handed, and I got a cat in the other. So here's that. I've been experimenting with doing different types of varnishes at the end. And that's been interesting. I've been having people ask me on the YouTube of the time lapses what I was mixing in, but unfortunately I didn't have a chance to really respond in detail. I had said that I would do a write-up on Patreon, but I think this might be a good spot for me to discuss it while I'm kind of stippling this in and pulling things around. So I had read on handprint.com that during the Victorian era, there were very highly finished watercolor pieces, and they used gouache, body color, etc. And during that time period near the end, they would heavily apply gum arabic. So gum arabic is the binder in watercolor, and it has a very shiny gloss to it, and you can buy it, or at least I was able to find it once in a bottle, and I had purchased some. I had some left over, and I was like, well, let me just use that. And I have some gum arabic that is in a dried form that I haven't experimented with. So I've been taking the liquid one, and I think this tree line right here, sorry, has to be a little higher than this. So I'm gonna bring it up a little bit so that the size is bigger than here, so it just pushes forward a little bit more. It may be too low in the picture plane, but we might have to adjust. We'll play around. Hammy, let me move the cat. Yep. So, where was I? Yes, taking the number one and talking about the coating. So anyway, so I've been taking that, and I've been having to hit the painting with the blow dryer, of course, and pass the gum arabic over the whole painting. I've been mixing it with a little bit of water to kind of thin it out and to get the flow more, but I'm not sure if that's the right way to go. If I mix it with water and have to do multiple coats, or if it's a heavy application in one go, I haven't quite figured that out yet. I do always wind up having one instance of a place in the painting catching the brush and kind of re-wetting and smearing, and that seems to usually be white gouache that wants to catch and smear during that. So far it's always kind of like added to the picture, but I know it's not super reliable, when you're just creating horizontal lines and you're looking in that regard. So I've been trying to figure out what would work best right there. If it needs to just simply wait overnight and then do that. It has happened like in the moment, obviously, because I'm just experimenting and seeing what's going on. So this is the one thing. I'm not getting completely perfect coverage with the gouache and the brush. I have experimented with vertical and horizontal brush strokes to cover it, and then I did try angled aspects, so I have to explore that more. And I've also applied coats and then painted on top of that, continued painting. And I have read, and this was like a few years ago, that you can use gouache as a resist and paint on top or around it, and it affects the flow of the spread and wet. You could also mix more gum arabic into your paints, or I think into your brush water, to get more of a sheen. So there's a lot of different uses. But anyway, so I have tried painting on top of the coat after I've done it in a mid-painting, and that works out. I'm just not sure like the longevity and cracking or things like that. So I feel weird putting that out there. Let's see what else. Let me mix a little bit of burnt sienna into this to just warm it up some, to bring it forward. And then one of the things that I did definitely in the beginning with the experiments with the gum arabic was taking the raw umber and mixing that in with water into the gum arabic and applying that as a varnish. And the idea there was to antique the paintings in a sense that with oil paintings, asphaltum is used to make a painting look older, and I believe that's used at the end, and that was used around that time period. I think asphaltum was literally just cooked up like asphalt type thing, and it wasn't really archival or anything like that. But nowadays they just use pigments to mimic that in oil painting. So that's what I was using there, that idea. This just sits too low compared to that. Let's just bring this a little bit higher. I could have the light come around here. Come through here, we have the light, and then we have the shadow from this tree. So I know this is blabbing a lot, but like I said, this is the first filmed video in a while. I think we're at the point moisture-wise where I can scrape without it pulling back. Let's see, yeah, so these areas are nice and easy to scrape. I'll put some vertical trunks in. Just get those ideas there. Pull a little bit of the moisture out just so I can scrape easily. Or see if I can get anything in there. All right, let's pause the camera and do a dry off. All right, we're making good time, and I figured there'd be something that'd be worth showing right now that I've been experimenting with. I have this tiny fan brush. It's from Hobby Lobby. It's like a miniature fan brush. And whenever I read about paintings of the 1800s and what I'm just referring it to as Victorian, they talk about the use of stippling and hatching. And I was like, well, how's that being used? And I'm honestly not sure if they were just taking a single brush and just going in. But I figured I can very quickly and very lightly brush the fan brush to put in hatching. Now, of course, it's not perfect. And I'm looking for just the shadows and trying to build those up. But I'm also trying not to change too much with the hues, the color, and the tonal values, where I really don't want the hatchings to stand out that much. And they just kind of give a movement to the painting. So this has been a big experimental factor. So hopefully that shows up and you can get a little bit of that feel there to see what I've been doing. Now, another thing that I've been doing, and it's just kind of a, what would be the word? Compositional idea. This kind of comes from, I guess it'd be the Luminists, but I really just don't know too much about those type of movements. You could look at something and be like, oh, that's definitely Luminist. But I'm just not quite sure. Or when you read things with Hudson River Valley, you know, people say, you know, just remember they kind of really embellished the lighting and the feel of the light. So I'm just taking that squirrel mop, just bringing that light in there behind those. Now I'm just using white but I'm not sure if historically what was being mixed for those. So like in oils, I have seen a video where a gentleman was essentially glazing, and as he came from back forward, he would let it dry, and then he would start another point, and I think tint it a little bit less, and it would work forward, and just kind of radiate forward. But I'm not sure if it was just white or if there was a mix that was being glazed over. So that's something worth experimenting with. And you can see how this also starts to separate those two masses. And this is kind of like a push and pull that starts to take place between tonal values and colors. Where if I take, let's go burnt sienna and ultramarine, and mix a warm dark. I can probably come in here, start pulling things forward, and you'll see that that brings it even more. I do find that if I want to move brush strokes or change objects up, I'll put my finger in and just push that around. So at the beginning, well, last year, a lot of last year, and then beginning of the year, I was doing a lot of the monochrome studies, and I felt that that really helped to prepare me for, or put me in the mind state for these type of paintings. I'm not sure what else led to that. I don't know if you'd call it like a midlife crisis or what, but I then wanted to add some color and push the paintings in a little different direction and see what I can get to happen. Let's put a little white down here and see what happens. I think Herman Peckel uses a lot of the white gouache movement over his. I'm gonna grab some lemon yellow mixed with a little bit of white gouache for this field. I'm gonna push it up a little bit just because this tree line, how low it is just not really working for me compared to this tree line. You see how the white gouache just helps create a little bit more coverage. It lets you start working in different directions. Light to dark, dark to light. You can of course feed into that. We can of course create it. So this is a sugarcane field, and this is a tree line right here. So let's experiment with a little bit of white gouache. Well, that's a lot of it. That's another thing too. You just put it down and you can wet around it and spread it out. To put some openings and just show that it's a tree line, that might be the one thing that's kind of hurting me on this, is that I know what it is and it's a tree line and that there's light coming through behind it. But this is just true experimentation and just seeing what can be done and how it can be moved around. I think I've talked about this before, where formulas really start to take place and you just start figuring out what's going to work for you and how you want to define the trees. And for me, putting dark around the base to really kind of sit it in place is one thing that works. You can grab the lamp black. Yeah, Ham, pass that over. Move that around. Just let some loose movement happen. Textures. Now's a good time for us to do another pause and dry off. All right, so we're 30 minutes in. I think this is a good place to stop, and then I'll start another video, and I'll link that down below. I'm not sure if I'll do a Patreon exclusive for that or not, but I will have that linked. So that being said, I hope you enjoyed. Please like, subscribe, follow, and I will be back with more. Bye.